Hi guys, this is Scribbly again with another pen review, and today I have something very interesting for you. A pen that has had quite a social media appearance these last couple of months, I shall say. And the pen that we're going to look at today is the Esterbrook Estie. And I have been sent this pen for review by Brian of Kenro Industries. Kenro Industry is an American company. As far as I understood it, they're the US distributor for Monte Grappa, for instance. And so Esterbrook is like an old traditional American company. I think they sort of went out of business. Kenro Industries then sort of like bought the brand name or the rights to use the brand name and sort of like gave a rebirth to this brand. So Brian, thanks a bunch for sending me this pen for review. I appreciate that very much. And you guys, we're now going to dig into that. That pen does come in a cardboard box, or like at least a cardboard gray outer sleeve. Inside there's something reddish. Estie ebony gold trim fountain pen. So that fountain pen does also come, this year is the version black and gold trim. There's also black and silver trim, and I think then the whole pen is available in a number of different tortoisey, marbly finishes. Kind of nice. They look really cool, look slightly vintagey. If you ask me, that pen does look a little bit like a Sailor King of pen or an Akaya or something like that, style wise, which I kind of like. And then as said, Estie is like sort of a nickname for Esterbrook, so like that's the first revival, rebirth pen, so to speak. We slide that thing here out, and out comes a very lovely sort of fabric, vintagey, with some kind of dots and some kind of a structure right here, surface structure. Cardboard box that is, like as said, covered with some kind of a fabric. Very nice, sort of like I don't even know, is that like flocked on or something like that. A Esterbrook logo since 1858. That's of course like now the original Esterbrook company, and America's original, reborn. So since 1858, reborn 2018, esterbrookpens.com, the address here, and a division of Kenro Industry, kenroindustries.com, as I told you, like the background of that company now that has bought the rights to that brand. There's like a couple of information here, warranty. So Esterbrook, as said, originally a quite traditional pen manufacturer. As far as I understand, their vintage pens are still fairly affordable, quite popular out there. They made a wide range of nibs, and I'll get to that in a minute. And they were also priding themselves for being quite affordable pens, as they also made school pens and all that, as far as I understand. And I'm not sure if the rebirth of this pen got that interpretation quite right in terms of affordability, and I'll get to that back in a minute as well. Let's look at what we get with the pen, with the package. First, we get a nice little cotton bag with Esterbrook on there, like so. Nice branding, gimmicks. Some stickers also look really cool, remind me of like skater shoes, Vans or something like that. I really like that, looks very cool. You get a converter with the pen. I have another converter in here. I think I didn't see that in the first place, so I was just like using a converter that I had. And then I'm gonna put all these things here aside. The cool thing is, and that's sort of where like this whole like, okay, you get a cartridge here as well. Just gonna show you that one as well. So, but now the cool thing is that the pen does come with a vintage nib here, a relief fine stub, solid Durachrome renew point. So the cool thing is that, like, I mean, okay, it doesn't come with that. You need to purchase that adapter here separately, this vintage nib adapter. The pen does come with a regular number 6 steel nib. I believe it's a bog nib, a fine one here. But then the clue of this pen is, and I think that's like basically the main intention, so to speak, is that if you then for $50 extra buy this little adapter section here, it can take all kinds of Esterbrook vintage nibs. This here a fine stub, as said. These are quite readily available on eBay or something like that. And then you just, I mean, that now came with the pen because Brian has sent it for review as well. The only thing that you're going to do basically is like hold on to the nib and then just, you know, twist the section. So, and then here you have this vintage nib adapter. That's how it came. Adapter in here. That nib was in here. Super cool packaging, of course. Really like that. Looks awesome. I'm going to show you that right here. So, and then you can just buy whatever Esterbrook vintage nib. You can just then, you know, install that like that. Guys, never twist the nib. Always hold onto the nib and twist the section. And if you want, use a protective towel or something like that. Not necessary though, in my opinion. Quite awesome, nice vintage scroll work right here. And this is a beautiful, fine stub nib that actually does write very beautifully, has a little bit of bounce. I think when you order the pen, you get some random vintage nib with it. So you can actually not really choose which nib you get, even though you may maybe voice a preference. And then simple and easy, that now also does take standard international cartridges. You just put a cartridge in or a converter and then you install the section right here. What's a little bit a pity right here is that it's silver, not also gold, but doesn't matter all that much, I would say. And that's what it is. Like this, you can use all kinds of vintage nibs on this pen here. Pretty cool, pretty neat. One of the key features of this pen, as said, this here costs, this nib adapter does cost 50 bucks extra. So if you want to have that functionality, you need to purchase that separately, because otherwise you do just purchase the pen. But I don't want to say just, because this pen actually also does have quite something to it. Let's look at that pen now. As said, a cigar shaped pen looks a little bit like this Sailor that they have out there without these without the accent rings, or like a King of pen or an Akaya or something like that. Super beautiful. I like this nice glossy black, very nice. You definitely see that this is a great manufacturing quality, super good build quality, no seams or whatever manufacturing signs visible here. Very nice, beautiful golden clip, very springy, not stiff at all, super nice. And then a very clean lower cap end here, flaring out a little bit, says Esterbrook, also looks nice, looks vintagey, and then just tapering down like that. It's a kind of large pen, show you the size comparison a bit. Super cool. Cap twists off with less than a turn. Super nice, because that makes it a very nice, fast, accessible note taker. And it has like an inner cap in here. That inner cap does have a spring, quite a little bit like the slip and seal mechanism of the Platinum 3776 Century. And you also see that when I'm quiet and I unscrew the cap, that it's sort of like this cap inner spring here pops the cap off, sort of. You see that? Yes, so that does pop the cap off in a way. So you also can't really twist the cap in like this, but you really have to push it in and now twist. That's how you do it. And then when you don't see that golden ring anymore, then you know that the thing is properly sealed. As said, fantastic, opens and closes very quick. The only thing that I must say, and I don't know how well you can see that, so this inner cap here does not really lay tightly on the outer walls of the cap. So there is like a small gap. It's maybe even just a fraction of a millimeter or something like that. But what does happen to me sometimes when I cap the pen is that I slide with the nib in between that inner cap and the section, or at least and the cap walls. I never really get stuck there, but sometimes, like, you know, like this, like, oh, now I can't get it really in, so I need to be sure that I sort of like center it a little bit, that I'm not here on the outer edges, but I really like center it consciously a bit, and then you get in there. I mean, like Once you use the pen for a little bit, as said, you get used to that sort of, but it's just a little bit of an issue that I don't know, like it's a quite expensive pen. I discussed the price in the end, and maybe that's not really necessary, right? But you know, it's what it is. As said, then the pen comes with a simple number 6 Bock steel nib in gold saying Esterbrook 1858. Of course, not originally 1858, but you know, the heritage. Some scroll work, F for fine. Since it's a number 6 Bock nib, you can probably cram in any whatever Bock steel nib, maybe even a Jovo steel nib, you know, titanium, even a gold nib, whatever strikes your fancy. Then you have a section here, nice chunky section, very, very comfortable pen to hold, quite lightweight pen, very balanced, really nice in hand. This is a fantastic pen, guys. You can post it. Gets a little bit long, not top heavy because very lightweight material, some kind of a resin I assume, so not top heavy whatsoever, but I just think it gets quite a bit long, and you know, I have rather large hands and that's perfect like this. And I also think that the properties, or the proportions rather, with this large nib make for a very nice aesthetic. It's a nice looking pen, some gold rings right here. Here you see that it's only 2 threads, which of course accounts for the pen. As said, unscrewing quite fast. And then very nice build quality, a section here, rubber o-ring. I think that rubber o-ring wasn't there. I think I put it there from a TWSBI, a kit that I had, but not sure about that. As said, that's my converter here. Pen came with a converter and inked with Tsuki Yo, I think it is. Or no, it's Okuyama. Sorry, Okuyama. Well, so then let's do a size comparison real quick to the Lamy Safari. My standard size reference pen. As said, it's a quite large pen, even larger than the Lamy Safari when capped. And let's see what happens when uncapped. A wee bit shorter than the Lamy Safari, but you see, nice large nib. So that looks kind of cool. Let's do a writing sample. I'm now only doing a writing sample with the steel nib that came with it, because if you don't order it with this vintage nib converter and the vintage nib, then that's the only thing that you get. And I can already tell you that this is a pretty nice nib here. Try it up a little bit in the course of the review now. That normally doesn't happen. Now I even have to prime the feed a little bit to show you the writing, but that's what we're going to do. Just bear with me for a second. I can assure you that that normally doesn't happen. Now I tripped a little bit, but that doesn't matter. At least the pen will now write. As said, normally doesn't happen. I've had that pen in use for quite a while and it hadn't happened. Esterbrook Estie. Fine nib. You may hear the pencilish feedback that the nib has. Almost feels a little bit like writing with a sailor. Very, very pleasant, I must say. I like that kind of feedback. Very generous ink flow for a fine nib. And hey guys, this is a really, really, really pleasant nib to write with. There's no doubt about that. And I would say it is really a true Western fine nib. It's not an extra fine or something like that, but this is really a wonderful, crisp, fine line, a pleasure to write with the pen. So what's left for me is to debate the price, and that's where it gets a little bit ambiguous for me. So the pen is listed for $200, which I think is certainly too much for a, you know, rebranded vintage steel nib pen. If you look up in the interwebs, Goulet Pens does sell it for $150, which I still find is quite an ask for a regular steel nibbed pen. Yes, that's also what you pay for a Diplomat or something like that. But, well, I mean, around 150, it's not completely painful dollars US, but I still find it's quite an ask. And then $50 extra for this vintage nib converter. I also think that that is a little bit over the board. For $50 you can, you know, you can get a Lamy Ion or something like that. That's a full-fledged pen. So I do think that the asking price of this pen, certainly the list price with $200 plus this, that would then set you back $250. I mean, hey, even considering all this nice merchandising and branding and packaging, I still think that it's too much money. And even with the street price of 150, it's definitely worth thinking about it, I guess. Would you offer the pen and this vintage nib converter for 150 bucks? I'd definitely be sold straight away. Other than that, 150 for that plus a 50 for that. Think about it. If you like Esterbrook, if you like the design of the pen, go for it, because it is definitely a great pen. I just think that the price is a little bit on the higher end of what you can possibly ask for such a pen. Guys, I hope the review was useful for you, and I'll see you at the next review. And thanks once again, Brian of Kenro Industries, for sending me this pen for review. I appreciate that a lot. Bye bye.